Our story begins in a small Swiss village near the Italian border, where all the villagers were poor. This sleeping child is one of the villagers. He is 11 years old, and his name is Romeo. Romeo woke up before sunrise, took his pet weasel pick, and ran quickly to ring the church bell before the sun rose. He rang the bell and the priest gave him money for it. But before leaving, Romeo told the priest that today was the tree climbing competition and that he would participate, asking the priest to come and watch him. However, his friend Anita came and told him that he couldn't participate in the competition because it was too dangerous for him. But Romeo was determined to take part. Romeo lived with his poor family, which included his mother, Jessie, his father, Robert, his grandmother, and his 2 younger brothers. He had promised his family that if he won the tree climbing competition, he would bring them bread, as they hadn't had bread for a long time. Romeo's father was a farmer, but due to drought and lack of rain, he had lost all his fields except for one. While the village was quiet, a villager named Skara saw an evil man called the Reaper coming to the village. Skara told his friends that the Reaper traveled between villages to buy the children of poor families and take them to the city to work until they died. When the Reaper saw Romeo and his father Robert, he told Robert that he wanted to buy his son, but Robert angrily refused. When Robert refused, the Reaper learned that Robert only had one field left as his source of livelihood, so he went and burned the field to force him to sell Romeo. The competition day arrived, and the participants were village children, Marco, Bellino, and Romeo. They had to climb a pole and reach the owl statue at the top, and whoever took the statue would be the winner. The competition began and all the villagers were watching. Marco climbed the pole but fell, then Bellino tried but got tired, so Romeo continued climbing and was about to take the statue, but from afar he saw his father's field burning. Romeo descended and ran with his father to the field and entered the fire to save the goats inside. The fire burned for 3 days, and after it was extinguished, Robert lost the field, and Romeo's family was in debt and had no money. Romeo went hunting to bring food for his family but was unsuccessful. When he returned, his father yelled at him and said that he didn't understand what they were going through. Romeo cried and ran to Anita and asked her to hide him because he didn't want to go back home. Anita hid him, but while Romeo was hiding, he overheard 2 women talking about him, saying that he would be sold because his family no longer had money. Not only that, but he also heard that he wasn't Robert's real son, and that his real father had died in the war. After hearing that, Romeo ran quickly. But his mother, Jessie, and grandmother told him that Robert wasn't his real father, but loved him as if he were his own son. At this time, the Reaper was at Robert's house and offered him 30 francs to take Romeo to work cleaning chimneys in Milan, but Robert refused again. When Romeo returned home with his mother, he saw his father kicking the Reaper out of the house and he apologized to Robert. But while they were standing, Robert felt very weak. The priest told them that Robert's eye had been injured because of the fire, and a doctor needed to be brought, but the doctor would ask for 20 francs. They tried to find work to raise the money, but they couldn't find anything. Then the Reaper came and said to Romeo, "I'll give you 25 francs to bring the doctor to Robert if you come to Skara's tavern and sign a contract to go to Milan to work cleaning chimneys." Romeo refused at first, but when he saw his mother begging for money, he felt pity and ran quickly to Skara's tavern and signed the contract with the Reaper. At night, the Reaper sent the doctor to Robert with Skara. The next day was Romeo's last day in the village. Anita came and told him, "Don't go to Milan, I heard that those who go to work there never return." But Romeo told her, "Don't worry, my contract says that I will return to the village in the spring." Romeo then said goodbye to his family and left with the Reaper to work in Milan. After walking for a while, the Reaper told Romeo to walk a bit, you will reach the city of Locarno, where you will find a shop called the Wild Cat. I will meet you there at night. Romeo got off and walked in the rain, but he found an apple and took it. However, the apple seller caught him and said, "You were riding with us in the apple cart, and you stole the apples." The apple seller didn't want to let him go until a boy the same age as Romeo named Alfredo came and told the apple seller, "By the way, he didn't steal the apples because his shoes are muddy, which means he was walking on foot. If he had been riding with you as you say, his shoes wouldn't be muddy." The apple seller apologized to Romeo and gave him 2 apples. Romeo took one and ran, giving the other to Alfredo. As they were walking, Alfredo saw a poster with his picture and a girl's picture on it saying, "Whoever finds these 2 children will get 100 francs." But Romeo didn't know what was on the poster because he couldn't read. Romeo and Alfredo walked together, and Romeo learned that Alfredo was also heading to the Wild Cat shop to go to Milan, like him, to work cleaning chimneys. When they reached Locarno, a thief stole Alfredo's bag. So Romeo and Alfredo chased after him until a boy they didn't know caught the thief by a bridge near the sea. But the thief and the boy fought each other, and Alfredo's bag fell into the sea. Romeo jumped into the sea and retrieved Alfredo's bag. Then they went to the shop, but the man there beat them because they were late. He took them to a place with many other children like them, and they found the boy who caught the thief there. He told them, "My name is Dante." But all the children were hungry, and one of them cried, saying, "I smell chicken coming from that door." They broke the door and found the reaper sitting with a woman and the man who had beaten them, named Ezzo, eating chicken. Dante saw a door they could escape from, so he went and took the rest of the children to escape. But Ezzo was coming down to where the children were. Romeo and Alfredo stayed behind to distract him so the children could escape. Ezzo came in and hit Alfredo, but Romeo and Alfredo hit him back and locked him in a room. Dante and the children went out the door but found a big wall they couldn't climb. Dante told Romeo, "Drop a rope for them to escape." They climbed the rope and were about to escape, but the Reaper suddenly appeared in front of them. The storm intensified, and the Reaper told them, "Let's ride the boat there and go to Milan." The children rowed in the storm, and the waves were very high. A big wave overturned the boat. After the boat sank, Romeo found Alfredo clinging to a plank because he couldn't swim. Romeo went to him, and they stayed together on the plank until they saw the Reaper drowning. Romeo jumped to save him, and they reached the shore. They lit a fire and slept beside it. Alfredo told Romeo, "If you want to escape, escape now." But Romeo told him, "No, I made a promise to myself to work in Milan. I can't escape." Romeo asked Alfredo, "And you, don't you want to escape?" Alfredo replied, "My parents died in a fire in our house, and all I have left is my sister, Bianca, and her picture is with me on the poster. I have to work and earn money, so I can't escape." In the morning, the Reaper woke up and brought a car to take Romeo and Alfredo to Milan. Romeo was heading to Milan without knowing if the other children who were with him in the boat were alive or drowned in the sea. Romeo and Alfredo arrived and were amazed by the beauty of the city. The Reaper took them to a tavern to sell them there. People who wanted to buy them came, and the Reaper sold Romeo and Alfredo to 2 different people. They were about to part, but they promised to meet again. The man who bought Romeo was named Rossi. Rossi was taking Romeo to his house, but on their way, Romeo heard a woman talking to Rossi, asking him, "How do angels live in your house?" Romeo didn't understand who these angels were. They entered the house and saw Rossi's wife, Amelia, and his son, Enzo. Rossi's family sat down to eat, and Romeo was very hungry, but they didn't want to give him food because he hadn't started working yet. At night, Rossi took Romeo to a place that looked like a prison and told him, "You'll sleep here." Romeo entered the place, but he saw in the mirror's reflection the room of the angels that the woman had talked about. Romeo slept, and in the morning, Enzo threw water in his face to wake him up, and Amelia took him to clean the whole house. After that, Rossi took Romeo to work cleaning chimneys. They went to the street and started calling out, "Chimney cleaning!" until someone told them, "Come up, our chimney is clogged." They climbed up to the house, and Rossi ordered Romeo to enter the chimney and clean it. The more Romeo climbed the chimney, the more burning ash fell on him until he was completely dirty. He reached the chimney's opening and cleaned it, then went to clean another chimney elsewhere. But this chimney was very hot, so he wrapped a wet cloth around his hand and wore a mask because the chimney was very hot. He climbed to the top of the chimney and looked at the sun and the blue sky, feeling happy at the sight. At night, after work, Rossi took the money and went to drink. When they returned home, they refused to give Romeo food again, so he sat and cried. But when he entered the place where he slept, he found a piece of bread and cheese. He said to himself, "This must be a gift from the angels." In the morning, Romeo went to work again and cleaned the chimney for a man named Professor Kazla. Kazla taught Romeo how to write his name and told him, "I'm waiting for you to learn to read and write." Romeo returned home and found that the angels had sent him food and a letter, but he could only read one sentence from the letter. "What's your name?" which was the sentence Kasla had taught him. Romeo wrote his name on a piece of paper, took a stick, grabbed the key to the locked door, opened the door, and put the paper with his name under the angel's door. The angels wrote him another letter, but he couldn't read it either. The next day, he went to work, and by chance, he saw Kasla walking in the street. He ran after him and told him, "Please read these 2 letters for me." Kasla took the letters and read them. The first one said, "I saw you cleaning in the garden, what's your name?" And the second one said, "Thank you for telling me your name. Tomorrow when everyone is asleep, I'll give you a signal from my music box to come to my room and talk." At night when everyone was asleep, Romeo heard the angel's music box signal, so he went straight to her room. He entered the room and saw her. She told him, "My name is Angelita. I have been drawing you every day since you came here. I have a fever that prevents me from leaving the room entirely, and I live my whole life through this window. I watch people in the spring through it and imagine the shape of the world, but there is one thing I can't imagine and can't see fully, and that's the wide blue sky. I wish I could see it." Romeo took her drawing notebook and told her, "I promise to show you the wide blue sky." In the morning, he was going to work carrying the drawing notebook. Enzo saw him and didn't know what he was carrying. What Romeo didn't know was that Enzo was a member of a gang of children his age who stole from people, called the Wolf Gang. Enzo went to the gang's hideout and took 3 of them to help him find out what Romeo was carrying. While Romeo was in the street drawing the blue sky, a member of the gang named Fanzo stole the drawing notebook and ran. Romeo chased after him until he handed the notebook to another gang member named Nikita. Nikita ran away from Romeo and threw the notebook into another building. Romeo jumped from the building he was in and chased Nikita until he caught him, but Nikita opened the notebook and all the drawings flew out of it. Romeo sat down in sadness until a feather fell on him from the sky. He took it and went to Angelita. The next day, while Romeo was at work, he saw the Wolf Gang sitting on the roof of a house, fighting with another gang. Romeo learned the names of the rest of the gang members, Rinaldo, Tacchioni, and their leader Giovanni. After the Wolf Gang beat the other gang, Enzo came with a hat and pretended that he had been fighting with one of the other gang members. Enzo lied to the gang and told Giovanni, "I stole this hat from the boy I was fighting with for you." The gang went to their hideout and Giovanni told Enzo, "You're special. Steal something special for us tomorrow and I'll make you a knight in the gang." Enzo returned home and didn't know what to steal until he heard Romeo in Angelita's room talking to her. The stout Romeo was telling Angelita, "I want you to teach me to read." She said, "Okay," and they agreed that she would write him a line each day for him to read and learn to read. Enzo decided to steal this letter and give it to Giovanni. In the morning, Enzo told Romeo that he wouldn't tell anyone about his relationship with Angelita so Romeo would trust him. Before Romeo went to work, Angelita gave him the letter, but she made a mistake and instead of giving him the line she would teach him to read, she gave him a page from her diary. Angelita had written things about her brother, Enzo, on the page. Romeo went to work and Enzo stole the letter from him without him noticing. Then he went to the gang and gave them the letter. Kita took it and started reading it, finding that Angelita had written that Enzo lied to the Wolf Gang and insulted them, saying he didn't like them. She didn't understand why he was helping them. When the gang heard that, they grabbed Enzo and beat him, and Enzo decided to take revenge on Romeo. While Romeo was walking with Rossi, he found Enzo on the ground after being beaten. Romeo went to check on him and asked him who did this to him. Enzo laughed and told him, "Someone in the Wolf Gang named Tacchioni beat me because I was defending you and he doesn't like you." Tacchioni was on a boat near the bridge, so Romeo ran quickly to the boat and found Tacchioni and his gang stealing food from it. Romeo entered the boat and fought with Tacchioni, telling him, "Don't interfere with Enzo." Tacchioni tried to hit Romeo, but Romeo dodged every time. Romeo climbed on boxes of food and threw an orange box at Tacchioni, causing him to fall. Tacchioni brought a rope, tied Romeo up, and beat him. He was about to hit him again, but Enzo had reported to the police, telling them that Romeo was the informant. The police arrived at the boat before Tacchioni could hit Romeo. The Wolf Gang fled, but before leaving, Tacchioni heard the officer say that Romeo was the informant. Tacchioni returned to Giovanni and told him, "Romeo brought the police." Giovanni said, "We must take revenge on Romeo." Enzo returned home and told his mother that Romeo had beaten him and stolen money, placing it in Romeo's bag. Enzo's mother believed him, and Angelita, seeing this, fell ill before she could tell her parents that Romeo was innocent, fainting from fever. When Romeo returned home, Rossi slapped him and locked him up, intending to call the police. When the police arrived, Romeo broke the glass of the place where he was locked and escaped from the house. But when he went down to the street, he found the gang waiting for him and surrounded him to beat him. Giovanni started hitting him, but suddenly a masked person appeared and said, "Wait, no one hits this boy. Whoever hits him will be cursed." The masked person disappeared with Romeo and hid him in a place. When the masked person took off the mask, Romeo discovered it was Dante, who was still alive and hadn't died in the storm. Dante told Romeo that the police were chasing him because they thought he was a thief. Dante told Romeo, "Tomorrow a cart is going to Venice. I'll help you escape in it." In the morning, when Angelita woke up, she told Enzo, "Confess that you are the one who stole." Enzo replied, "I won't confess, and my parents won't believe you because I'm their real son, not adopted like you." Angelita told Rossi, "Romeo is innocent, and Enzo is the one who stole." Amelia, Rossi's wife, said, "Don't tell anyone that Enzo is a thief so no one knows." At this time, Romeo and Dante went to the cart that would take Romeo to Venice, but by chance, Nikita and Fanzo were watching them. After Romeo hid in the cart and it moved, Dante discovered he had made a mistake and said, "The cart Romeo hid in is a weapon trader's cart full of explosives." Dante told him, "Hurry, let's catch up with him." They ran together, and while Romeo was on his way, he found himself at the police station. He discovered that the weapon traders had come to break their friend out of the police station, placing explosives in the station after doing so. They opened the box Romeo was hiding in, saw him, and locked him in a room, lighting a candle and placing it near the explosives so the candle would melt and the station would explode. Then they left. Romeo knocked on the door, but no one heard him until he found glass in the room, broke it, and escaped. He returned to the police station to warn them. By chance, he found Rossi inside, sitting with the warden. Romeo entered and shouted, "Get out quickly, the place will explode." But no one believed him, and indeed the place exploded. Outside, Kita was with the bombers and told the police that they were the ones who bombed the station, so the police arrested them. Rossi got up after the explosion and went to see Romeo, ordering the people in the station to treat him. After what Romeo did, Rossi felt guilty and told the warden that Enzo was the one who stole, not Romeo. The police brought Enzo and ordered him to apologize to Romeo. Rossi told Romeo, "From today, you are free. Go and visit Angelita. She is waiting for you." Romeo ran to Angelita and told her, "You are free now too." Rossi returned home and removed the iron door where he used to lock up Romeo, giving him a day off each week. Angelita told Romeo, "Use this day off to find Alfredo." Romeo indeed went to look for Alfredo. In a street Dante had told him about called Siroba, he found chimney sweepers like him, and they told him that Alfredo had helped them. One of them said, "He saved me from the wolf gang and hid me in a church." Romeo took himself and went to the church, finding Alfredo sitting inside. Alfredo saw Romeo and ran to him, hugged him, and they sat talking about the wolf gang and how they harassed any chimney sweepers they saw. They agreed that they needed to stop the wolf gang. That day, they gathered all the chimney sweepers they knew, and at night, Alfredo took them to a secret hideout and said, "This will be our headquarters." They called their group the Black Brothers and vowed to help each other and never be separated. Alfredo told them, "We will combine our strength, and if any of the wolf gang attacks one of us, he must whistle for everyone to come." The next day, Romeo took Alfredo to Casla, and Alfredo gave Casla a book to read. Romeo felt jealous of Alfredo because he could read. Romeo went to Angelita and took a story from her, trying to read it. He told Angelita, "When I finish the story, I'll tell you the ending." After a while of trying to read, Romeo finished the story and ran to tell Angelita but found her sleeping. So he left her a message saying, "The Black Brothers will fight the wolf gang on Tuesday." Tuesday came, and Alfredo told one of the chimney sweepers named Michael, "I want you to lure the wolf gang to this alley and we'll come to you." Indeed, Michael went down and faced Leo. Michael ran until he lured Leo to the alley, and the Black Brothers came down on him saying, "Don't be afraid, we won't hit you, but send a message to your gang that we are waiting for them behind the church of San Babila at 5 o'clock. Leo went and delivered the message to the gang, and the gang came to the church at 5 o'clock, But they came without Giovanni. Giovanni had gone to beat another gang called the Scorpion Gang and recruited some of their members into his gang. Tacchioni attacked Romeo and Alfredo, but he fell into a hole the Black Brothers had prepared beforehand. The Black Brothers started throwing burning ash on the Wolf Gang and beating them until they caught them all. Alfredo told them, "Untie Nikita, she is a girl, not a boy." Then Alfredo expelled the gang and told the Black Brothers, "We beat them." And Giovanni isn't with them, which means we haven't fully won. At the gang's hideout, after Giovanni learned what happened, he decided to take revenge on the Black Brothers. Nikita said, "We need to get rid of Alfredo because he is the leader, and if we get rid of him, we will get rid of everyone." The next day, Leo went to 3 of the Black Brothers and said, "We apologize to you and we want to offer you a box of oranges as an apology." Michael believed him and went with him to get the orange box, but the gang beat him and left a message for Romeo saying that Michael was with them, and to get him back, Alfredo had to come alone. Alfredo and Romeo went to the gang. Giovanni beat Alfredo and gave Michael back to Romeo, taking Alfredo with him. Giovanni told Romeo, "Tomorrow we will fight in Sempione Park, and if you win, we will give you Alfredo." Romeo told him, "We accept the challenge." Romeo returned home and Angelita came in and gave him a necklace to protect him. In the morning, the Black Brothers went to fight the Wolf Gang. Before the fight began, Giovanni told them, "No sharp tools are allowed in the fight." The battle began and everyone started hitting each other. When the fight intensified, Alfredo shouted, "Everyone will get hurt this way." Giovanni said, "Right, there must be one of you fighting one of us." Tacchioni said, "I want to fight Romeo." Romeo told him, "I agree." The fight began and Tacchioni started hitting Romeo until he knocked Romeo down and hit him. Tacchioni broke the rules and took out a knife, about to kill Romeo, but the necklace Angelita gave Romeo shone in Tacchioni's eye. Romeo hit Tacchioni and Giovanni told Tacchioni, "You used a sharp tool, so you lost." Giovanni told the Black Brothers, "You are the winners." He released Alfredo and told him, "We will fight again." The Wolf Gang left and the Black Brothers left, celebrating their victory and singing. The next day was Angelita's birthday and Romeo and Alfredo came to celebrate with her and sang for her. But after Dante left, he told Romeo, "Angelita doesn't look like her parents and I think she's not their daughter." Dante went and asked his boss at work, "Do you know who Angelita is?" His boss said, "All I know is that she isn't Rossi's real daughter and her grandmother's name is Isabella and her family is very rich and noble. Isabella came 11 years ago and gave Angelita to Rossi and then left." Romeo wanted to know the secret of this matter, so he followed Rossi and found him going to the mansion of Isabella's family. By chance, the mansion needed a chimney cleaner, so Romeo entered and cleaned the chimney. Then he went to another room and heard Isabella talking to Rossi, saying, "These are Angelita's expenses for the new year." Rossi told her, "By the way, Angelita knows you are her grandmother and wants to see you. Please meet her." Isabella said, "No, I won't meet her because she definitely wants the Montarni family's wealth. Although she is my granddaughter and the daughter of my son who died, her mother was poor, so it wasn't appropriate for her to stay in the mansion or return to it." Romeo shouted at Isabella, "Angelita has a kind heart and doesn't want money from you." Isabella pulled out a gun and pointed it at Romeo, saying, "Prove to me that Angelita doesn't want money." Romeo replied, "If you don't believe me." Isabella fired a shot in the air and told them, "Go away." After they left, Rossi told Romeo that Angelita's father was named Dolph and loved a poor woman, but Isabella wasn't satisfied with that, so he left the mansion and went away. But after Angelita was born, her parents died of a severe illness, and her grandmother took care of her. Romeo returned home and found Angelita sick. She told him, "I want to see my grandmother." Romeo promised her that he would take her to the mansion at night. He went and agreed with the Black Brothers to help him. At night, Angelita wore a dress and the Black Brothers took her to the mansion. But the guard didn't want to let them in, so they jumped over the fence and opened the door for them. Romeo and Angelita entered the mansion, but Angelita felt tired again, so Romeo sat her down and went to look for Isabella. When Isabella saw Angelita, she refused to talk to her, saying, "Go away." Angelita told her, "I came to see you, but now I'll leave." Before leaving, Angelita left her music box for Isabella to remember her by. Angelita and Romeo left and went to the church, but while they were in the church, Angelita felt tired again, so the Black Brothers took her home. Romeo ran and brought the doctor. The doctor examined Angelita and told them, "She is in a coma and I don't know when she will wake up. But if you want to treat her, I know a great heart doctor in Paris. You can take her to him." Rossi went to Isabella and told her, "Come visit Angelita. She is very sick." But Isabella refused again until the Black brothers went to the mansion and blocked its chimneys, telling her, "You are a bad grandmother." But Romeo came and told them, "If you do this, you will make Angelita angry because she is sad for her grandmother. She just wanted to see you and now she has seen you." Isabella was moved by their words and went with Romeo to visit Angelita. When she held Angelita's hand, Angelita woke up from her coma. Isabella learned from Casla about the doctor in Paris and said, "I will take Angelita to Paris for treatment." In the morning, Angelita said goodbye to Romeo and her family and got on the train with Isabella and left. A period passed and winter arrived. At this time, the Duke of Milan was getting married and big families from everywhere came to attend the wedding, including a family named Martinez. They were in a hotel and Romeo went to clean their chimney, but while he was cleaning, he saw a girl escaping from the family. She was walking on pipes and was about to fall, so Romeo tied himself with a rope and tried to help her, but they both fell. He heard someone shouting, "Catch Bianca before she escapes." Romeo realized that this girl was Bianca, Alfredo's sister, and ran quickly to look for her. They searched together but couldn't find her. Alfredo then sat with Romeo and said, "It's time to tell you my secret. Bianca and I are from a noble family called Martinez. We were living happily in the family mansion until my uncle Mauricio and his wife Jazz coveted my father's wealth and set fire to the mansion to get rid of my parents. But when the mansion was burning, my father threw me a box containing the family's treasure and told me, 'Keep this treasure.' Then my parents died after that. Bianca and I escaped and I cut her hair so no one would recognize us. But my uncle made the poster you saw earlier to find us and take the treasure from us. I didn't know where to go until we found a farmer who let us stay and work with him. But then the Reaper came and took me from there. I got separated from Bianca and didn't find her until I saw her running away from my uncle today." While Alfredo was telling Romeo this, Mauricio found Bianca and took her after she ran away from him. But by chance, Nikita saw them and told Romeo and Alfredo, "There is a person who kidnapped a girl, and she was calling for Alfredo before being kidnapped." Alfredo gathered the Black brothers and said, "My uncle wants the family's treasure, which is this medal. It is a medal my father received from the King of Italy a long time ago. My uncle wants to take it from me to give it to the King of Italy at the Duke's wedding and prove that he is a family member." The Black brothers agreed to help him. The next day, they went to the hotel where Maurizio and his wife were staying and caused a commotion to distract the security from Romeo, who climbed up to their room through the chimney. Romeo found Bianca and told her, "Alfredo is in the church of San Babia." But Maurizio overheard them, so he tied up Romeo with Bianca and went to the church to meet Alfredo. The Black brothers entered the room, tied up Mauricio's wife, and then untied Romeo and Bianca, running to save Alfredo. But Mauricio had already reached the church and pointed his gun at Alfredo. Alfredo pushed his hand and ran away. Nikita, who was outside the church, helped him escape. The Black brothers arrived with Bianca. Alfredo saw his sister, ran to her and hugged her, but suddenly he felt weak and fell to the ground. The Black brothers took Alfredo to Casla. Casla examined him and told his servant he has a severe illness and will die soon. Alfredo told Casla, "Don't tell anyone about my illness, and when I die, take care of Bianca." Then Alfredo and Bianca went to the Black brothers and told them, "On the Duke's wedding day, we will enter the mansion and talk to the king about what happened to us and show him the medal to make him believe us, but we need a plan to get into the mansion." They made the plan, but at that time, Mauricio made a fake medal to present to the king. At night, Alfredo was walking in the street exhausted, but Giovanni suddenly appeared and said, "I told you we would meet again." Giovanni ran towards Alfredo and hit him and was about to continue hitting him, but he noticed Alfredo was exhausted, so he stopped and said, "Let's postpone the fight to another time." Giovanni returned sad, but 4 members of the gang, Tacchione, Rinaldo, and Valerio, thought he couldn't stand Alfredo anymore, so they decided to kidnap Alfredo and bring him to Giovanni. The next day was the Duke's wedding party, and the gang sent a message to Alfredo saying that Bianca was kidnapped at the bridge to lure him. Alfredo went to the bridge and Rossi saw him by chance. Alfredo went under the bridge to look for Bianca, but the gang locked him in a room. When Alfredo was late, Romeo went to look for him and learned from Sia that Alfredo was at the bridge. The gang started chasing Romeo until he found the room where Alfredo was locked. Romeo ran and broke the glass, entered Alfredo and told him, "You can't go to the king now. I'll distract the gang." When Nikita learned what the rest of the gang had done to Alfredo, she went and told Giovanni. Giovanni took Nikita and went with her to the bridge. Nikita told the gang, "I promised Alfredo I wouldn't tell you, but what you don't know is that he has a severe illness, the same illness that killed Giovanni's father." When Giovanni heard that, he sympathized with Alfredo and decided to help him. He shook hands with Romeo, and for the first time, the Wolf Gang cooperated with the Black Brothers. At this time, Alfredo and the Black Brothers started their plan to distract the security. They entered the mansion through a back gate but faced one of Mauricio's guards who was about to kill Alfredo, but Giovanni suddenly appeared and hit the guard. The Black Brothers and the Wolf Gang cooperated and started hitting Mauricio's guards to continue their way into the mansion and talk to the king. Romeo took a rope and went with them. Nikita went with them to show them the way to the mansion through the cellar, but they faced a closed door that someone had to open from the other side. Romeo took a bar, tied it with the rope, and threw it through one of the mansion's windows. Romeo climbed the rope, but the mansion guards fired at him, and he was about to fall, but Alfredo saved him. Alfredo took the gun from them, and Romeo entered through the window and opened the door for them. Outside the mansion, Isabella returned from Paris to attend the party and, by chance, met Michael. Michael told her everything that happened with Alfredo. Inside the mansion, Mauricio approached Bianca and took her, telling Alfredo, "Give me the gun or I'll kill her." Alfredo gave the gun and Mauricio was about to kill him, but Romeo came and stood in front of him. Nikita came from behind Mauricio and hit him, causing the gun to fire a shot into the air. Romeo was scared but still alive. Everyone entered the mansion after that. At this time, Gisela had entered the king with the fake medal. The rest of Mauricio's guards arrested Alfredo and his friends, but Isabella was there and told the guards, "Let them go." Isabella took Alfredo and Bianca and brought them to the king. Alfredo told the king, "Mauricio is a liar." The king listened to what Alfredo said, then listened to Alfredo and saw the medal. The king told him, "The medal I gave to the Martinez family had a mark not found on the medal you have." Alfredo told the king, "Do you mean the blessing mark? It's here on the original medal with me." The king ruled in favor of Alfredo and Bianca and returned their right to them. Alfredo returned to Romeo after regaining his right and took Bianca to Casla. Alfredo went to the church with Romeo and told him, "Thank you, you are the best friend I've ever met. I wish I could visit your village, but I don't think I'll stay in this world much longer. Please take care of Bianca." After that, Alfredo fell and died. Romeo held Alfredo's body and cried, and everyone was sad about Alfredo's death. Romeo couldn't leave his room to hold a funeral for Alfredo until Dante sent him a message to get him out of his sadness. The Black Brothers told Romeo, "You must be our leader after Alfredo's death." Bianca came and told Romeo, "Alfredo wouldn't be happy seeing you sad." Romeo came out of his sadness and he and the Black Brothers started collecting money to hold a funeral for Alfredo. They held a funeral attended by everyone, sang for him, and buried him after that. Bianca stayed with Casla. A period passed and spring arrived and Romeo was about to return to his village. He said goodbye to the chimney sweepers and said goodbye to Rossi. Romeo went to Alfredo's grave and said goodbye. He agreed with Giovanni that the Wolf Gang wouldn't harass any chimney sweepers. Casla took Romeo with Bianca and brought him to his village. Romeo said goodbye to Bianca and entered his village, hugging his mother and family. 10 years passed, Romeo grew up, became a teacher for children, and married Bianca, having a child they named Alfredo.